The wedding was perfect. Too perfect. Aisha stood beneath the rain of white rose petals, her hand trembling in the grasp of China's youngest billionaire, Li Tianhao. Cameras flashed. Guests clapped. The world saw a fairy tale, but she saw her mission. Behind her veil, her earpiece hummed faintly. "You're in position, Shadow." Phase 1 complete. Her handler's voice, calm and cold, sliced through the applause. Aisha smiled sweetly for the crowd, her heart pounding in rhythm with the lies running through her veins. She had been trained for this, to seduce, to observe, to destroy. But nothing in her training prepared her for the way Tianhao's eyes looked at her now, sharp, calculating, almost tender. The man she was sent to ruin looked at her like she was the only truth in the room. Hours later, the newlyweds' limousine slid through Shanghai's glittering night. Neon lights flashed across the tinted windows, painting her reflection in gold and crimson. Tianhao's voice broke the silence. "You're quiet, Aisha." Not what I expected from the woman who captured the world's attention overnight. Her throat tightened. "Maybe I'm just overwhelmed." He tilted his head, studying her with that unnerving calm. "Or maybe you're hiding something." Her pulse stuttered. For a second she thought he knew, that he could see beneath her designer gown and into the truth buried beneath. The microchip sewn into her hem, the camera lens in her diamond earring, the mission file memorized word for word. But he just smiled, slow, deliberate, dangerous. "You'll learn, Mrs. Li," he murmured, "that in my world, secrets are currency. And I always find a way to collect." Later that night, when the city slept, Aisha sat alone in the master bedroom. Her veil lay discarded beside her, her phone glowing with coded text. "Target access granted. Initiate phase 2. Her hands shook as she typed her reply. "Understood." Proceeding. But as her finger hovered over send, she heard movement behind her. Tianhao stood by the window, shirt undone, moonlight brushing against his chest like a secret. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked softly. She forced a smile. "New surroundings." He walked closer, too close. "Or maybe you're thinking about what you've gotten yourself into." His fingers brushed her cheek. The touch burned. His voice was silk and steel. "Be careful, Aisha. This house listens. The walls have ears. Even I don't always trust them." Then he left her there, shaken, confused, and terrified by the one truth she hadn't planned for. She was falling for her target. By morning, her handler's message blinked again. "Extract his files before he extracts your heart." But it was already too late. As she watched Tianhao from the balcony, commanding the world with one phone call, she realized something terrifying. Maybe he wasn't the criminal her agency claimed. Maybe he was the victim. And maybe, just maybe, she was the real weapon. The morning after the wedding, Shanghai woke to headlines of perfection. The billionaire and his black bride, a union of power and mystery. But inside the Li estate, perfection was an illusion wrapped in glass and silence. Aisha sat by the window, the sun painting her brown skin in gold. Her fingers trembled around the porcelain teacup, her mind replaying Tianhao's warning from the night before. "This house listens. The walls have ears." Every word she'd said since then had been careful, calculated. Every breath rehearsed. Every smile a mask. Still, she couldn't shake the strange feeling that she was the one being hunted. "Madam." A soft voice broke through her thoughts. One of the housemaids, Mei Lin, entered quietly. "Mr. Li asks for you in his office." Aisha's stomach dropped.
"Now."
"Yes, ma'am." He said, "It's important." The office was large enough to fit a small apartment, filled with dark wood and sharper shadows. Tianhao sat behind his desk, tapping a file with one elegant finger. "I see you've been exploring," he said without looking up. Aisha froze. "Excuse me?" He finally lifted his eyes, that calm, piercing gaze locking onto her. "The East Corridor. You went there last night." Her blood ran cold. That had been where she planted the micro-device. "I was lost," she lied smoothly. He smiled faintly, leaning back in his chair. "Be careful where you wander, Aisha. Some rooms in this house bite." Something in his tone sent chills down her spine. He wasn't threatening her. He was warning her. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He answered in rapid Mandarin, sharp, clipped, controlled. She didn't understand every word, but one stood out clear as ice. Assassination. Hours later, Aisha found herself locked in the mansion's inner lounge with a glass of wine and a rising panic. Her agency had told her Tianhao was guilty of arms trading, murder, and corruption. But the man she saw today was calculating, yes, but not careless. Not cruel. And then came the explosion. The windows trembled. Somewhere outside, alarms wailed. Aisha's wine glass shattered in her hand as smoke began to curl over the garden walls. Within seconds, guards swarmed the hall. Tianhao burst through the door, his white shirt splattered with dust and blood. His eyes locked onto hers. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, stunned. "What happened?" He grabbed her wrist, dragging her toward a hidden staircase. "Someone tried to breach the estate. You stay behind me." "But..." "No arguments." His voice was thunder, commanding, terrified in a way she hadn't thought possible for him. They descended into a dim corridor beneath the mansion. Security lights flickered. She stumbled once, and his hand caught her waist, steady and strong. "You're safe here," he said, breathless. "Don't move." Then he turned to leave. "Tianhao," she called after him. He paused, just for a second. "Why are you protecting me?" she whispered. "You barely know me." He turned, his eyes dark with something she couldn't name. "Because someone wants you dead too." When the chaos finally quieted and the estate lay under lockdown, Aisha sat in the dim light of the underground room, her heart racing. Her phone vibrated. Her handler again. Explosion confirmed. Proceed with infiltration during confusion. Her hands shook. She couldn't. Not after he'd risked himself to protect her. The door opened. Tianhao, blood on his sleeve, exhaustion in his eyes. "Who would want to kill you?" she asked softly. He hesitated, then answered, voice low and dangerous. "Maybe the same people who sent you here." Her breath caught. For a second, neither moved. Then, slowly, Tianhao stepped closer, close enough for her to feel the warmth of his breath, the scent of smoke and rain clinging to him. "If you're hiding something, Aisha," he murmured, "I'll find it." And then, in a voice barely audible, "But I don't want to." He turned and left before she could speak. Aisha stood there, trembling, caught between guilt and desire. For the first time since her mission began, she no longer knew who the real enemy was. Rain fell that night like broken glass, cold, sharp, relentless. Aisha stood on the balcony, her silk robe clinging to her skin, the storm soaking her hair as she stared out over the glittering Shanghai skyline. The world below her was alive, honking cars, flashing lights, the hum of secrets whispered in every alleyway. But up here, in Li Tianhao's private estate, she felt like a ghost trapped in paradise. She'd spent the whole day helping his team clean up after the explosion. The news had blamed it on business rivals, but she knew better. The attack was meant to flush out a spy. Her. And yet, instead of exposing her, Tianhao had kept her safe.
"Why?"
"Aisha." His voice came from behind her, deep and low, that calm thunder that always made her spine straighten. She turned. Tianhao stood in the doorway, his black shirt half unbuttoned, a bandage wrapped around his left arm. The rain behind her made the air between them shimmer. "You should come inside," he said softly. "You'll catch a fever." She smiled faintly. "I've survived worse." He stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "You shouldn't have to." For a man known for ruthlessness, he was disarmingly gentle. It made her uneasy, made her heart ache. "Why are you really protecting me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have bodyguards, security systems, everything. You don't need me here." Tianhao's eyes darkened. "Maybe I do." The words hung between them, dangerous and tender. "I've been hunted all my life, Aisha. Betrayed, used, lied to. And yet, you're the only one who feels like truth." Her throat tightened. Don't fall for this, her mind screamed. He's the target. But her heart, foolish, traitorous heart, whispered something else. Maybe he's the only thing real in this whole mission. That night, she couldn't sleep. She wandered through the dark hallways of the mansion, barefoot and restless, her mind warring with guilt and desire. Then she heard it, the click of a gun. She froze. In the reflection of a glass panel, she saw movement. A shadow. A man, creeping toward Tianhao's study. Her instincts took over. She moved silently, pulling the hidden blade from her robe. Years of training surged back, the spy, the soldier, the liar. When the man raised his weapon toward Tianhao's door, Aisha didn't think. She attacked. The fight was swift, brutal. Her blade flashed, slicing through air and flesh. The man fell, gasping, blood staining the marble floor. Tianhao burst out of his study, gun drawn, eyes wild, and froze at the sight before him. Aisha stood there, shaking, the knife still in her hand, the intruder at her feet. He lowered his weapon slowly. You, she couldn't speak. You killed for me. She swallowed hard. He was going to shoot you. Tianhao stepped closer, his expression unreadable. You could have run. You didn't. I don't run, she said quietly. He stared at her for a long moment, then took the knife from her trembling hand, dropped it to the floor, and pulled her into his arms. You saved my life, he whispered against her hair. Tell me, who are you really, Aisha? Her heart pounded against his chest. Say it. Tell him. But the words died on her lips. Instead, she whispered, someone who's tired of pretending. He tilted her chin up, eyes searching hers. Then stop pretending. And before she could think, his lips were on hers. Fierce, desperate, consuming. The kiss was everything she shouldn't want. Danger, guilt, salvation. And yet, when his hand cupped her face, when he breathed her name like a prayer, she forgot the mission, the lies, the agency. All that existed was this man, the one she was sent to destroy, holding her like she was the only thing that could save him. Later, as dawn crept over the horizon, Aisha lay awake beside him, her heart caught between heaven and hell. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, a coded message from her agency. Phase 2 begins. End him before sunrise. Tears burned her eyes. She turned to look at him, peaceful, unaware, vulnerable for the first time. She picked up the gun from the table. Her hand shook. He's not the monster, she thought. The monsters are the ones who made me believe he was. And for the first time, Aisha Li, the spy, the weapon, the liar, made a choice that wasn't part of any mission. She deleted the message. And she whispered to the sleeping man beside her, if I have to betray the world to save you, then so be it. The rain returned that night, harder, colder, as if the sky itself wanted to wash away what she had done. Aisha stood before the mirror, wearing one of Tianhao's shirts, his scent clinging to her skin. Her reflection looked like a stranger, eyes rimmed red, soul fractured between love and betrayal. End him before sunrise. The message haunted her like a curse. But sunrise had come, and Tianhao still lived. He'd left early for a board meeting, guarded and silent, his parting kiss soft but uncertain. He could sense it, the shift in her, the secret she carried like a knife behind her ribs. Now the house was too quiet. She turned when she heard the faintest click, the sound of a lock disengaging. Her instinct screamed. The next moment, the front door burst open, and 4 men in black tactical gear flooded the living room. No insignias. No mercy. Her agency. Aisha Li, one of them barked, aiming his weapon. Step away from the window. She froze. You're not supposed to be here. Orders changed, the man said coldly. You compromised the mission. Her heart pounded. He's innocent. You were never meant to decide that. They raised their guns. Then chaos. Glass shattered behind them. Bullets tore through the air, hitting 2 of the intruders before they could react. Smoke filled the room. And through the haze, a shadow moved with lethal precision. Tianhao. He moved like a ghost, fast, efficient, deadly. In seconds, the room fell silent except for the echo of gunfire and the thud of falling bodies. When the smoke cleared, he stood in the doorway, blood spattered across his face, his gun still warm in his hand. And his eyes were on her. Aisha. Her name sounded like a verdict. How long? He asked quietly. How long have you been lying to me? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. You're not just some artist from Lagos, he continued, his voice shaking with fury and disbelief. You were sent for me.
To spy.
To kill. Tears streamed down her face. Tianhao, listen to me. He laughed, hollow, heartbroken. Everything about you was a lie. No, she cried. The mission was real. Yes, but I fell in love with you. I tried to stop them. I tried to protect you. His silence was worse than shouting. Then the pain in his eyes softened. Just a little. You killed your own agents tonight. I saved you. And now you've made yourself their target. The truth hung heavy between them. Hours later, they sat in his underground bunker. Two fugitives in a war neither asked for. The monitors showed flashing alerts. Wanted. Interpol search. Internal leak suspected. Aisha patched the wound on his shoulder in silence. Every touch felt like an apology she couldn't say aloud. Finally, Tianhao broke the quiet. Why didn't you kill me when you had the chance? Because I stopped believing you were the enemy. He looked at her, really looked, and for a moment, the steel in his gaze melted. I don't forgive lies easily, he said. I don't ask for forgiveness. Her voice trembled. Just a chance to make it right.
How?
By taking down the people who sent me. That night, the mansion burned. The agency sent reinforcements, drones, explosives, and a death warrant with her name on it. Aisha and Tianhao fought side by side, gunfire echoing through marble halls, smoke and fire painting the night red. Every time she faltered, his hand found hers. Every time he bled, she covered his back. When the last of the intruders fell and the estate stood in ruins, Aisha turned to him, chest heaving, heart raw. It's over, she whispered. Tianhao's gaze burned into hers.
No.
It's just beginning. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You ruined my life, Aisha, and somehow, I still can't let you go. She smiled weakly through the tears. Maybe that's what love really is, surviving the ruin together. He kissed her then, rough, desperate, and real. The world around them burned, but for the first time, neither of them cared. 6 months later, Florence, Italy. A quiet cafe. A baby's laughter in the distance. 2 people seated by the window, sunglasses on, living under new names. Li Tianhao, now Daniel Li. Aisha, Amara. He reached for her hand. Still watching the door? Always, she said softly. Old habits. He smiled. I'll protect you this time. She leaned her head on his shoulder, the faintest smile ghosting her lips. No, she whispered. We protect each other. Outside, the bells of Florence rang, loud, beautiful, and free. 10 years later, Tuscany, Italy. The sun dipped low over the vineyards, turning the sky molten gold. Laughter carried through the warm evening breeze, children's laughter. Aisha stood by the porch, her hands stained faintly with paint, her hair tied back with a scarf. On the easel before her was a portrait, half-finished, yet alive, a man with kind eyes and a quiet strength. Behind her, footsteps. You still paint me better than I am, Tianhao's voice teased softly. She smiled without turning. That's because I paint what's true, not what's perfect. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. The silver at his temples glinted in the sun. Time had touched him, but gently, softening the edges of the man who once lived behind locked doors and blood-stained walls. Dinner's almost ready, he murmured. The kids are threatening to start without us. They got that from you. He chuckled.
No.
They got that stubbornness from their mother. Aisha turned in his arms, resting her hands on his chest. Do you ever think about it? She asked quietly. The past. He paused. The cicadas hummed in the distance. Sometimes, he admitted, but not with regret. Why not? Because every scar, every choice led me here.
To you.
Her throat tightened. You sound so sure. I am. He kissed her forehead gently. We spent years running. Now we get to live. Later that night, the vineyard was silent, the sky ablaze with stars. Aisha lay in bed, Tianhao's arm around her, their children asleep down the hall. Her phone buzzed, a message from an encrypted address she hadn't seen in years. She opened it slowly. All files deleted. Case closed. You're free, Aisha. For a long moment, she just stared at the screen, the words sinking in like dawn breaking after a decade of night. Tianhao stirred beside her. What is it? She smiled, the kind of smile that comes only once you've truly escaped the darkness. Nothing, she whispered. Just freedom. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his voice low and full of love. Then sleep, my beautiful spy. The world finally belongs to us. And as she drifted off, Aisha thought of the life they'd built. The art, the laughter, the love that had grown from fire and blood, and for the first time, she believed it. They were free. Completely, finally, forever.